Hi, everyone. Just a little tour of Chapter 3. Go through the text a bit with you, identifying the important points as well as summarizing the work that's up, etc. So the announcement that I had recently posted showing that the reading for this week, again, every week we will read uh, articles in addition to always reading the chapter content. So I have 4 articles identified by Batten, Wenstrup, Kelly, and Rothstein. We'll look at those in a minute. Also, in addition, I added to read at least the Baby Doe and Robert Latimer case studies, as the discussion board this week is on those case studies. So let me transfer over to the text. So chapter 3, which begins on page 110, is on euthanasia. A word likely everybody has heard, as you learn in our text. It comes from the Greek and it means good death. So it's a word with a positive connotation, and of course has a wide variety of circumstances in which it's relevant. End of life issues, we call it, often also called assisted suicide, because as you can see in this rubric here, breakdown includes the notion that much euthanasia is associated with physician assisted suicide. This quadrant includes separation and distinctions between active and passive, letting death happen, passive versus active, in some sense causing death. The most famous active euthanasia actor was Jack Kevorkian, who became known in a negative way as Dr. Death. And then you have involuntary versus voluntary, which it comes as no surprise that that's a separation that's important as to whether or not a person is competent enough to decide their own fate. So to scroll through, give you some more highlights. There is a long philosophical history in euthanasia, and needless to say, ancient philosophers, the Greeks, the Stoics are referenced here. And as you go through, again, book quickly summarizes a lot of the views, ending here in this section with some quick summary of religions which take stances against euthanasia. All of this is material that could be certainly find a lot more information on and is relevant to a lot of the readings that we have at the end of the chapter as well. There have been a number of court cases, in particular in the recent past, this century, the past 20 years or so. There's been Oregon has led the way with the Death with Dignity Act, and needless to say, the United States is also comparable or able to be compared, that is, to other states in other countries in which sometimes there is a much more open attitude towards euthanasia in other countries than there is in the U.S. So to bump down, again, a landmark case, the Cruzan versus Missouri Department of Health. And as with each chapter, the moral issues are summarized, and once again, that many of our essayists, the articles at the end, will be bringing these to light. The religious arguments summarized here in a sense by the sanctity of life, which is often incorporated within views supported by religions. Autonomy and self-determination, compassion, mercy. Mercy is probably the most famous and well used argument that defends euthanasia or assisted suicide, and the notion of being against it because of sanctity of life is probably the most prominent one on that end. There has been a number in our current time period. The notion of letting die versus actively killing is ripe for a lot of discussion. Here, the principle of double effect is referenced. That is, if in case that could say that in passive euthanasia, the death of the person is an unintended consequence of the intended effect, which is simply to eliminate pain and suffering. Utilitarian philosophers or utilitarian philosophy is used quite heavily in defenses of euthanasia because, of course, utilitarians say that we should, emphasize or promote, pleasure and happiness and avoid the avoidance of pain and suffering, which in this case, they would defend that euthanasia does that. So on to the articles. Again, I have you reading Batten's article. And you can see here the summary that Batten is defending capital punishment. Defending euthanasia using mercy, justice, and autonomy. So a wide-ranging argument in support of it. There is an essay quiz on Batten by herself, so you can pay attention to that and be ready for that. I have you reading Wenstrup's article as well, which is just a summary of a resolution that happened in 2017, so a relatively short presentation of that resolution. Kelly, who presents a different argument, writing in opposition to a bill that would have legalized doctor-assisted suicide, and which, as you see here, passed but was overturned, and don't believe has been re-raised or certainly not repassed. And then finally, Rothstein's article, which is kind of an interesting summary position in saying the title "All Death is Death Without Dignity." So the notion of how should death itself and and what it means figure into what we think about euthanasia. All right, well, let me know if you have any questions. Again, the module has 2 essay quizzes and a discussion board. One essay quiz on Batten and another essay quiz on a combination of asking you to take a look at a couple of the articles, at least a couple, and compare them. This is the first example. This comparing one gives you the opportunity to see the topic before you go in. So it's essentially more like a what you're going to see as the first of the Dropbox, which the first Dropbox assignment is going to come out of capital punishment, which is next week's reading. All right. See you soon. Thanks.